Oh, it looks like that might be a little bit. Whee! What if you were louder? There we go. Hi, good morning, welcome. I am tired. No surprise there. Um, it's been that centered. It's been quite the week for me. I realize it is Wednesday. It is Wednesday morning. I've not done that much yet in terms of time progression. So today we're going to be working on some tech debt. So if you're not familiar with the term, tech debt is when you start working on something and you're like, well, we'll deal with this later. There's, you know, oops, sorry for the bad delay, but it sounds like the audio is good, so that's nice. Uh, so tech debt is something that you start working on and you're like, well, it kind of works for now and we will deal with it later. And now is the later, as it turns out. And the specific thing that we have been doing is we've been building an assistant that basically gives you the experience of taking the New York Times dialect quiz. So we're using data provided by Bert Bucks. Thank you very much, Bert. And let's just launch Rasa X locally. So I typed Rasa X and it just shows up in the middle of the command prompt for no reason. Oh, also we're gonna need to start a server, otherwise it's not gonna run. Rasa run actions and run that as well. And I'm gonna sense a little bit. I was trying to set up captions to work today, but it looks like they just sort of aren't. Unfortunately, so I'm gonna try and get that set up for tomorrow. Get captions going. I think that'll be helpful. So, all right, endpoint up and running. Something went wrong. Oh no, I messed up somewhere. The confidence threshold looks like mapping values are not allowed. Line 4. Okay, so I remember that we changed our confidence threshold at one point, and it looks like that change broke our dang thing. So I'm just gonna close this window and relaunch it. I just want to show you what the assistant does so far and then what the problem is. Rasa X. So this will launch Rasa X in local mode. We also have a server running. I still haven't fixed the GitHub issue that I created, and we'll get to it when we get to it. And I was not seeing the whole live chat. Hi, if anybody said anything and I didn't respond, my apologies. So here is our local Rasa X version. Here is my coffee. Give it just a second to load. So basically what this assistant does is it gives you a quiz. So you are asked a bunch of questions about how you'd say different things, like, what do you call a sweet, fuzzy, carbonated beverage? Oh, I wanted to move me. And the answers, you could say pop, you could say soda, you could say fountain drink maybe, you could say phosphine, you could say Coke soda pop. Yeah, I think those are the big ones. And then based on your answers to those questions, they are matched to the closest answer in the original data set, which was a multiple choice quiz. And we run a classifier. It's just a k nearest neighbors classifier. And that classifier returns the top 3 states that it sounds like you are most from. Last time we ran it, we ran into some issues. So I'm hoping that it works and we can have a nice conversation. And I just want to talk to my assistant. Oh, it looks like we don't have a model selected. Oh, we got one. All right. We should be able to just talk to our assistant and go through and have this conversation. Fix this so you can see the whole conversation. Oh. All right. So and I still haven't fixed the localhost mapping, so it's going to be a little bit slow on Windows. And that's on me. Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to take a quiz? Yes, I'd love to take a quiz. Let's go. What do you call a small bug? Technically a crustacean that's found under logs and can roll into a little ball. Ooh, that's a roly-poly. People call it like woodlouse, potato bug, basketball bug. Potato bug is the one people use here in Seattle. What do you call a sweet carbonated beverage? I'd say soda. Or soft drink. I'd say soft drink too. How do you address a group of 2 or more people? I would say, are y'all ready to go? So far so good. I pronounce those different cotton caught. So there's a merger in the low back vowels that some Americans have and some Americans don't, and I do not. What do you call it when rain falls so the sun is shining? I don't know. I don't have a special word for that. I'm waiting for the problem to show up. Okay, so here we go. So as we've been going through and taking this quiz, just a little quick intro to the interface. This is the action that the assistant is taking, and the confidence. Confidence will range from 0 to 1. And then this is the intent that the user is taking, the identified intent with the confidence, and then the slot and the value of the slot. So here the slot is bug and the value is roly-poly. And here we just have that the intent is in form, and we don't have that this has been extracted as an entity. And that's because of the way that I've set up the thing. Vedant says drizzling. Oh, so when it's raining and sunny at the same time? I think for me, drizzling means more like steady, soft rain. Like, it sort of sounds like that level of intensity and not like that level of intensity. Little Foley work. Hope you enjoyed that. So that for me is what drizzling would be, but definitely could be a term that people use for that. So no entities were extracted, and we just saved all of this information. And using our elicitation form, I'll show you the code for that in just a second. We match this to the closest answer in the multiple choice quiz. Here you can see that we did actually extract the entity y'all. Here we had inform, and again, it was just matched. And here we had an intent that was identified as stop with pretty low confidence. And instead of stopping the conversation, the form just continues. And that's because of the way that we've set up our form, our elicitation form. So we're doing it a little bit, I don't want to say janky, but we definitely took like a little bit of a hacky approach. Let me move me again. Ooh, okay, over here. We definitely took a little bit of a hacky approach. And in our actions folder, I don't actually need any of that. The way that we are getting our information out, we have 2 ways of doing it. So one is that we are getting it from an entity when that entity occurs in the intent in form, right? And here we have a bunch of entities of the different examples of different entities: bug, beverage, second person plural, caught, quat, etc. The thing is, because people can enter in free text, we don't actually have in our data, if we check out our NLU, we don't actually have all of those entities annotated. And also, even if we did, people might say things that were not covered by one of those entities. So I don't know that like drizzling is in here, but it might be something that people would answer these questions. So we do have a couple of entities annotated that I did during my like very early development of this assistant. So we have the bug entity, so potato bug, roly-poly, pill bug, Slater, doodle bug, etc. We have the beverage entity, which is soda, pop, and Coke, phosphine, fountain drink, soft drink, all that sort of stuff. And then the second person plural, which is which would be like vous in French, or a lot of languages have the formal form being the one that refers to more than one person. English used to have that, and we took the more formal form, you, and applied that everywhere. So the informal form was thou. So if you ever hear old-timey stuff where they're like thee and thou, it's just like you, but in the singular and the informal. Also, as in French, used to talk to God. So a lot of like biblical stuff will be using the and thou if you're talking to God. Anyway, English facts. Enrique says, Yankee, OMG. I'm sure that must have showed up somewhere in here. But yeah. Yankee is a general term from people from the Northeast in the United States, or people who had been on the Union side, whose states would have been in the Union side in the Civil War, sort of generally. And I think outside of America, people just use it to refer to Americans. It's a little bit pejorative. It has sort of like connotations of carpetbaggers, at least in the South. So we don't have all of these entities annotated in a way where they're actually extractable at the moment. We might end up doing that. But what I'm hoping will work is the way that we are getting most of the intents. Oh, sorry. I might be getting a tiny bit of an echo because of that. The way that we're getting most of these intents is using this from text action. I'm going to see if I can pull it up in the docs really quick so we can take a closer look at that. So what that does is it just says whatever text the user enters, that's what you fill the slot with, which is good in general for our particular use case because we want to be able to handle any text that people enter and then validate it. But it's bad in that that means that if someone asks, hey, are you a bot, in the middle of taking the quiz, the form will just be like, this is how they say what people cause a traffic jam when they're looking at the rec thing. And we don't want to do that. We want people, if they ask, hey, are you assistant, to get that answer correctly right away. We want people to, you know, be able to stop the quiz. We want people to be able to like interleave the quiz with like chit chat FAQs that we sort of provide, like, how are you? That sort of thing. What was I looking up? So self.from text in the Rasa docs. All right. So just an FYI for folks is that right now the default docs are for Rasa 2.0, specifically 2.0.0 RC2. I'm working towards our first major stable release of 2.0. So if you're working with Rasa 1.0, you'll need to click through to the legacy docs. And then forms are, in core. So custom slot mappings, I think that's what we're looking for. Yeah, and then the specific thing that we were using was from text. And the question that I had was, can I specify that I want it from text specifically for a particular entity? And it looks like I can do it from not intent here. We'll use next. Yeah, okay, so I can specify that I want it from a particular intent. So I'm gonna do that. And hopefully that will fix our problem. So for all of these, I'm just saying, hey, whatever text, I don't care about the intents. And as it turns out, I do in fact care about the intents quite a bit. So, and then I think I can just, all right. Do my parentheses match? They sure do. Okay, nope, gosh. Stop giving me tool tips. I just want to copy paste. There we go. All right. Actually, there's a faster way to do this. So we want self.from underscore text. And we want to replace with self.from underscore text. Oh, and then that. All right. And I believe we have regular expressions on, which means that the parentheses mean a capture group. So I want to turn regular expressions off and just do one of them. That looks great. Do all of them. Okay, we should be good now. Let's try this one more time. And I'm actually just going to kill my local Rasa X server because I can just do this in the command line. I don't care that much. Boop-boop. Kill you. Stop you. Oh, wait. Control C to stop. There we go. All right, so let's run our action server again. And that's running. Okay, and we need the action server because it's doing the form and it's also running the actual, what's the thing I'm looking for? It's running the form and it's running the classifier. Andre says, this method seems to be difficult to maintain under dynamic conditions. The method where you just take all the input and store it in a slot, that particular thing? Or my sort of general development environment? Or live coding. I would not recommend you do all your development through live coding. That's a Rachel recommendation. For one thing, it is much slower. And let's just... Are we up to date? Have we finished training? Do we need to retrain? Ah, we did need to retrain. Okay. And then we can run our assistant and see if it do what we want it to do. Oh, hey! I hadn't checked our numbers today, but it looks like we just hit 10K subscribers on YouTube. I have something prepared. Hopefully I will finish it today. I wanted to do a giveaway, but I started looking into like the laws and basically we'd have to do something different for every single country that people who entered the giveaway are in. And y'all are from all over, and it wasn't really doable. We'll do something else though, something nice. Andre says, I mean, well, your data changes. You cannot put it into code every change. So you mean... So do you mean what the users are saying? Akito says, am I the only one on Chit Chat? I don't think so. It looks like there's a couple other people, but might just be being quiet. So the sort of recommended way that we suggest that you work with Rasa is that as people have conversations, you annotate them using Rasa X, which I just killed my server, so it's not going to work. But as people have conversations, they will show up in your NLU inbox in your conversations, and you can see I just stopped the server, so we're not going to be able to do anything. But you annotate the data here, you correct the labels, and then you can fold it back into your training data, and then just retrain your model and deploy it from there. I'm behind the train button. Oh, there's the train button. So it is pretty straightforward, and I think any like any machine learning application where the underlying data is changing, people retrain pretty often. I know Chip Wynn had a really interesting Twitter thread yesterday, the day before yesterday, where she was talking about sort of the type of misconceptions people tend to have about ML deployment, and like how often different teams deploy models. And I think it was like Etsy, she says, their team deployed models 50 times a day, 50, which is a lot. I don't know. Hopefully that's what you were talking about. All right, our model has changed. So let's... And that should enable verbose logging, debugging. All right. Yes, I'd love to take a conversation. And so I have debugging on just so I can check what's happening under the hood and see if the thing that we've done actually is working. Are you a bot? Okay, that's good. That's not bad. Okay, so what we did, we gotta scroll back up because a lot of things happened silently in the background. So the assistant asked, hey, do you want to take this this quiz? And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. And the intent was identified as affirm, very high confidence. Affirm just means like yes, so that worked. And then the correct next thing to do, action, utterance, turn, there we go, was selected, and there was a memorized next action elicitation form. So in our training data, in our training data, we have a path where the user says hi, the assistant says, hey, you want to start a quiz? The user says yes, and then the form gets triggered right away. So that's how the assistant knew what to do there. And the form was the elicitation form, which we've defined in our actions, and the action endpoint, so the server that we have open in this tab, was called, and then it asked, hey, what do you call this little bug thing? And we said, and at that point, none of the slots had been filled. And we said, in here somewhere should be our actual thing. There we go. We said, are you a bot? And the intent was identified as bot challenge, which is correct. And at that point, the tracker is the whole state of the conversation to date. At that point, the assistant didn't know what to do next. There was no memorized next action that we demonstrated before. There was an active elicitation form. The predicted next action was to use the second policy, which is the form policy, so to continue working through the form. They did that, and then when they continued to extract the information from the utterance, they got this error because we had said, hey, we only want you to extract the text in instances where the intent is in form. And the intent was not in form, so the assistant says, oh, I don't really know what to do. We don't know how to extract this information, and so we got the information back, hey, I don't understand you, try something else. So we'd need to do something that would have the input form to continue moving, the inform intent to continue moving forward. So I could say something like a bug, and that should, yep, so this should be now, it's matched to the closest option in the multiple choice, and that slot has been set. So semi-success. We are now successfully interrupting the form when we have a non-inform intent. We are not successfully doing the action that we should do when that intent comes up. So in our stories here, we have this little story here that's like, hey, whenever somebody asks, are you a bot? You should say, yep, I'm a bot, built with Rasa, I think is what the particular utterance is. So semi-successful. We definitely interrupted the form. Now we will only extract information from inform intents, which is good, but yeah, we're not correctly changing the action of the assistant from something other than a form when that action is taken. So Andreas says, for example, if you have a product list inside a database. Oh, no, you don't have to put all your data in the, so the only thing that you need to put in your training data are things that your users will say. And if you want to look something up in a database, I would handle that in your action. I would not put that in your training data. Yeah, that would be very silly and also not super secure. So I'm actually using database. Let me pull up my actions real quick so you can see. So something that I don't expect to change. There we go. So something that I don't expect to change is my validation data. So I have a specific list of intents. And here I have this, you know, it's just a dictionary that I have defined in my in my code, but this could be like a link to a MySQL database or whatever it is that you're using. No, the only things that you need to have in your training data are example utterances of things that your users will say, and then example conversations that your users will say. And once you have your assistant running in Rasa X, you can actually save conversations and add those to your training data. So yeah, the thing that's making this a little bit funkier than it could be is if I wanted this to be very straightforward, I could just give people little buttons and they could pick on the button. But because I want people to be able to put in any input and then we will pick the closest answer for them, I need to be a little bit more flexible in how I handle input. Omkar says, I'm doing a dress update using a form action, but asking the user to fill a dress slot. So I do pre-validations, like validating policy number and ask if they are validated. Then doing ask address. That sounds like a great use of forms. I don't know if there was a question there, but yep. Kuldeep says, Rasa is running on port, let's say 5005, Rasa chat. I want to disconnect it and connect it to a different port to connect to live chat. Any idea you can give me? So that should be in your endpoints. So here I am specifying that my action endpoint is here. And you can change that. There's a lot more details in the docs. I think that's probably going to be the easiest place to find it. Andre says, have you ever seen the human kind of logic behind dialogue description language we actually use in conversation models? I don't know that I'm familiar with dialogue description language. In particular, there's a lot of different ways that people use there's a lot of different ways that people save information about conversations to put into different systems. But yeah, this is just based on the name, it sounds more like it's what we would call stories, ways to go through. But it also might be a little bit more rule-based, a little bit more state machine-based, possibly. Again, just based on the name, I'm not familiar with it. Hekito says, is there any reason that you're not using IPyNB, IPython notebook files in this project, or have I missed? No, it's a great question. So I actually have been using, so there's several parts to this project. And one of the things that I have is a k-nearest neighbors classifier. And so I have the original training data, which I don't have permission to share. And that original training data, and then the data cleaning. Actually, the data cleaning I did mostly in R, just because I really like R for tabular language. It's got lots of nice quality of life features. So the training and the model validation, I all did do in IPython notebook files. If you wanted to train your own sort of pipeline and then add it, you could definitely do that. And then the specific parts of your pipeline are, so I'm using this supervised embedding, which is just shorthand for a specific pipeline in a specific order that we provide. And we're actually doing away with this sort of packaging of the pipeline. So we recommend that you specify all of the things. It's just a lot of the dependencies for the things that we are working the best right now empirically are not supported on Windows. And they should be in TensorFlow, I think 2.4. So when that happens, I can update everything and it'll be much better. So that if you were going to do your own sort of machine learning bits and stuff, actually going into the assistant, they would probably be like bits that you add to the pipeline or that you reference from here. Yeah. Then, since we're talking about files, you'll notice we have a lot of YAML files here. YAML is just a markup language. We are going to be changing that to Markdown as of Rasa 2.0, just because we had a lot of feedback from developers that that's what they preferred. So we're going to do it. Umkar says, what I'm asking is how to give conditional slot requirement. I want to do the address update operation form using validations. I believe, I don't know if you're using 1.x or 2.0, but I believe that we talk about, do we talk about conditional stuff here? Yeah, here we go. Handling conditional slot logic. You can just do if else based on the slots themselves. So this is in the Rasa 1.0 docs, and you could probably find it in the Rasa 2.0 docs as well. So yeah, that's how I would do it. DDL is a language backed with a .NET compiler, which creates a non-Van Neumann automata, which is able to tackle many conversational problems like out of order responses, etc. Yeah. Okay, so it is like a sort of more traditional model. Yeah, most of our dialogue policies, so there's the memorization policy, which is sort of if you have an exact example that your user is following, keep following that exact example. And then a lot of our other dialogue policies are actually transformer based, because they handle long distance dependencies pretty well and handle that same problem. What happens when people do things in a different order than you expected them to. So yeah, I think it sounds like a what am I gonna say? It sounds like it might be a useful tool for some folks in some situations. I'm never gonna say automata are bad and nobody should use them, but that's not our approach. My so when I was applying for faculty jobs, my sample lecture actually talked about automata quite a bit. So the core policy is the thing that is not helping us here. So let's go back at so the thing that I'm happy that happened is when I said use something that wasn't an inform intent, the form correctly identified that I didn't want to save that information. What I'm not happy happened is that it didn't identify the next action correctly based on the stories that have been provided. I expect my assistant, when it gets the bot challenge, to reply with the utter I am a bot. And it did not do that. So let's check out the core stuff in here. A bug, so it's this section here. Okay. Processor. So it correctly identified the intent, which is good. Confidence threshold was met, the confidence of the fallback action. So this means that the model was very sure that what was said was bot challenge. And then the current tracker state, so this is just the whole conversation to date. There's no memorized next action. There's an active form, elicitation form. So there is actually a memorized next action. And what I mean by that is there is an example of this exact interaction, this like a sort of like slice out of of the utterance, and it's not being noticed, right? So there is an elicitation form that's active, so we're just going to keep trying to go through with the elicitation form. And then it just runs the elicitation form. So here is where the breakdown happened. And I think the thing that I'd like to do is use a different dialogue policy like convert. Unfortunately, again, it has the specific dependency is TensorFlow text and the Windows version of that, which is not available. So options here. So I could provide an example that is just like, hey, I have stopped the form Actually, let's use interactive learning. I think interactive learning is going to be the easiest here. So let's just stop this conversation. I think you can do interactive learning from the shell. I know you can do it from Rasa X. Why not? Let's just start another Rasa X local instance and see if we can get use interactive learning to provide an example that we can add to our Yep. So it's just going through all of the list of saved models that we have and being like, hey, some of these aren't right. And then these future warnings, I don't want to deal with the job lib one. I will at some point. And then the diet classifier here, again, has that TensorFlow text dependency. We'll get to it. We'll get to it when TensorFlow 2.4 launches, because the folks working on TensorFlow 2 text have said that that's when the Windows version will be added, so. Omkar says, currently working on for a company helping them build chatbots using Raja. Wish me luck. Good luck. It sounds like you got a pretty good handle on things. Any advice? Just like general advice? It's gonna take longer. Like, give them realistic expectations about the length of the project, I guess. Especially if there's any like pretty complicated logic or deployment steps. I don't know. The general advice. Akito says, a couple months ago I watched your video on Kaggle, how to submit a submission on Titanic. I was really an amateur. Just last month I got my first little gold medal on a computer vision competition. Oh, congrats. I see there's so much to learn. Thank you for your contributions. Congrats, that's a big win, and you're very welcome. I'm glad I could help. Coffee. All right, let's start an interactive learning session. Make sure I've got the right model. Oop, I do not. So this is all the models that I've trained for this project. You can see they go back to January. I've also updated in here, so that's why we're getting all these errors. I guess I could go through and tidy these up, but I might want them. I don't know. I don't like deleting old models. I'm a pack rat, and they're just not that big. All right, so let's talk to our assistant and let's go through and have a conversation where we start the quiz, and then I have a bot challenge, and then the assistant answers the bot challenge, and then we continue with the form. So let's do it. Step 1, coffee. Hello, 3 Blessings. Welcome. You want to take a quiz? Oh, yeah, love quizzes. They're great. I did actually genuinely like quizzes in school. I was a nerd. As long as they weren't spelling quizzes. I failed a lot of spelling. What do you call a small bug? Okay, so here we're going to throw things off the rail. Are you a bot? So this should be identified as bot challenge. Correct. Okay. And the next action should not be the default fallback. So this is what happens when the assistant isn't sure what to do next. And I'm actually going to correct this so that it's not the default fallback. It is, in fact, utter I am a bot. There we go. And from here, we should continue with the elicitation form. I'm trying to remember if I need to... If I call form here, will it restart the form or will it pick up where I left off? I think it will pick up where I left off, because the way that forms work is that they check slots that have already been filled over the course of the conversation. And if you have set it up so that your slots are cleared at the beginning of every conversation, then it should mean that I will not be asked about the roly... No, I will be asked about the roly-poly again, because I haven't filled that slot yet. So then the elicitation form. Oh, beans. Oh, beans. I messed up. All right. Well, so it didn't actually utter I am a bot. Do I have an utterance called that? Surely I do. Surely I wouldn't have removed that. I am a bot powered by Rasa. No, it exists. Why then does it have no information, and then elicitation form, and then I should say yes, the next action should be listen, and action listen is just wait for the user to give input, roly-poly, and then the form should continue, and then soda, etc. Okay, and then if we want to save this as a test, we can save it. But I don't want to save it quite just. Yeah, I think I want to save this as a story. And let's just finish going through the quiz, because I would also like to see if the classifier will work. I believe that the last time we worked on this, we got an error. Do not like errors, and I think that the error might just be a job lib thing, and then we do have to go back and retrain our classifier, which caught, those are different. Not something I'm looking forward to. And this will also be a nice little check-in with our assumption that our assistant should interrupt the form if it detects an intent other than inform. Sun showers, why not? And there is a typo there, but that should be because we're using fuzzy matching. Yeah, that should be corrected to the closest of the options. That's crawfish. Beep it a boop. Night before Halloween. I don't call it anything. I have a friend who calls it Gate Night. And that's the only person I know of who has like a specific name for that. Mischief Night? Maybe I've heard people say that. I don't know, man. It's a sub. Coming up though. What do you call the small road parallel to the highway? That's an access road. And if you notice that the names of the slots are very close to tennis shoes, very close to the answers that I'm giving, it's because I wrote the slot names. Hi, Fraser. How's it going? That's a highway. I don't think I sing well enough to get a copyright strike. It's a yard sale. Rubbernecking. I'll also say that this particular quiz is way more turns than the usual assistant conversation. I want to say that the average assistant conversation is around like 10 turns, and this one is closer to 30 because it's so many questions. Frosting. I actually did a project on this in graduate school, just like a fun. I was curious about regional differences in frosting and icing, so I did a quiz, and did not get very good coverage. Lawyer boy. I don't know why I have to say it every time, but I do. So this is what we built. We built this quiz. I changed the question answer slightly from the original data, again, provided by VertBox. It's based on the Harvard Dialect Survey. That's Kitty Corner. Or Catawampus, but I know that's not in the data. It's a firefly. Or a lightning bug. It's a verge. That's a brew through. Imagine they're doing amazing business right about now. Rasa says, I have a question. Why is data fetched from a database displayed as the JSON format in web chat? Oh, like for your assistant? Probably your connector is handling JSON back and forth. I think it's also I will say that I would not really consider myself a web developer, but what I know about web developers is that they really like JSON and sort of tree-based data structures like that. And that's generally the way that data is passed back and forth between websites. If anyone is a web developer, please feel free to chime in and say something more informed. Yeah, I'm working on some tutorials now. Not the email one. I'm sorry, Faiza. It'll be a while. I have a pretty big backlog of stuff I need to make. So water fountain, and we should be close to the end of the quiz. Interesting. Okay, so you listen. The form is done, and at this point, the next thing that we do should be utter slot values. So let's correct this. So this is just going to be like, here's all your answers, so people can see their answers and share them with friends, I guess. I don't know, man. And then the next thing should be action detect dialect. There we go. And this is what runs our classifier, which is running on our action server. And God, I hope this works. Okay, it ran, and then we should have, there's an utter, I think it's called utter dialect, so a way to tell people what their dialect is. And if you're wondering what all these things are, so the things with utter in the front, there we go, are things that the assistant can say. The actions with action in the front are default actions, so these are built into your assistant. So this one is like, I'm not sure what to do next, and this one is take it back one action, and this one is stop the form, and this one is like, are you sure about that? So all these different things, they're in the docs if you're interested in more information. And then these things that don't have any prefix are actions that I've written. So detect dialect runs our classifier, elicitation form starts our form, and then pause conversation is an action we wrote to pause the conversation in case of toxic language. And I think I accidentally deleted all the toxic language that we annotated together, which, I mean, no big loss, but it means we don't really have a way to train that intent right now. So, all right. So detect dialect, yep, and then utter dialect value is the next thing that you should do. Beans. Beans and rice. All right, that didn't work. And then it should just listen for the user. And then the user says like, okay, thanks. And then the assistant should say, no problem. I have an utterance that's like, yeah, you're welcome, sort of thing. So I'm gonna change it to something else. All right, and then the fallback to that should not be default fallback. It should be utter no worries. Here we go. All right, and let's save the story. So this is a thing that our assistant should do. And now if I go back and I look at my stories, has it been added? It has not. Okay, so that might be, I might just copy. Here we go. Here we go. Stories. Here we go. Here it is. Here's the new story. So I'm just going to request the elicitation form. Read. Benson, you're loud. Okay, I think my gating is good enough. You can't hear it. My dog's drinking in the other room. Interesting. So it looks like the story is not exactly what I'm looking for. Hikito says, gotta go, happy coding. Thanks for joining. Let's pop this in here for later. Get in there. There we go. Let's add a new story. So, oh, it has been added. It just took a sec. Andreas says, how about running two forms along each other and jumped from one to the other based on content? Ugh, I guess you could. That just sounds like to me, that sounds like a headache. I think the conditional form would probably be a little bit more straightforward to build. In Rasa shell, it's displayed as JSON format. Yeah. Would you want it as like CSV? My guess is that the benefit of having like a JSON format is that it can handle things that aren't tabular, which is like a lot of the information that you'd get, in a web request. And something like a CSV would, like, it's very limited in what sorts of information can be stored in it. And for the types of things where it does that well, it's great. And it sounds like you sort of want it rendered as like a nice, grid table thing, but that's, yeah, I wouldn't expect to see that as shell output most of the time. Andres says, like asking for things like document name, email, etc. Hey, buddy. You wanna come up? Boing. All right, let's say hi. Hello. Yeah, do you have a good walk? Okay. Bed. Benson, bed. Bed. Good bed, yes. Sorry, that was my dog. He's very sweet. Why are we reading this? Asking for things like document name, email, etc., and people may answer in weird order after interrupting the form by means of a random question. Yeah, oh, you can do that. So the I don't know, I was gonna say something. Yeah, no, you don't have to. I mean, the form is asking questions, right? And I can interrupt the form. The reason that it's a little bit funky for me right now is because of the way I'm getting data from the form. If you have like for addresses, you're going to get an address out, you can use duckling and extract the address entity, and then it's much more straightforward than any information that people put in could be an address. So for things like names, times, dates, stuff that duckling can handle or stuff that you can handle, and extract using entities and like rule-based things, I think that's a much it's much simpler than what I'm doing, because I'm trying to think of other instances where you may want to take like literally anything somebody inputs and like treat that as a potential valid answer, and that's sort of a kind of rare in terms of situations where a conversational assistant is good. Maybe for like art projects. Yeah. Enrique says, finally showing the next action combo in alphabetical order. Oh, were you the person who was asking about that on the forums? I saw that was something somebody brought up. People answer. Yeah, so people can answer. Usually you'd want to do something where you extract the slots and people can answer in any order. And also the way that forms work is if people are like, so let's say you're ordering a pizza. We use that example a lot. And you're like, hey, I want to order a pizza for tomorrow with pepperoni. You can extract pepperoni as a topping. Tomorrow is the date. Pizza is the thing you're ordering. And then start the form with all those slots filled. And then if during the course of filling out the form, people are like, oh, seating for two people and also outside, you can extract like outside and two people from the same turn. But again, the thing that I'm doing is a little bit funky, a little bit weird. Not a super common way to use chatbots. Yeah, they ask so many times when the bot asks for information, the forms might be interrupted along. Yeah, they do not have to be in order, and they should resume pretty well. Yeah, I again, the way I'm doing this is weird. They're much more robust than they seem. As it says, I want it to be displayed as it's fetched from the database, just like what is found in the database as it is. So like raw SQL? Yeah. I might file an issue for that if you think that that's something that people are going to want, especially if you want it in shell. It's probably going to have to be some sort of you're gonna have to build some sort of like way to print stuff out if you want like the sort of like tabular representation. Yeah. All right. So I just realized this cup is green. Ah, well, okay, it is an actual cup. It's got like flowers on it. I use a green screen. So this is not exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna call this interrupted form. So the first part should actually be exactly like this, yeah. But then okay, so this is, and that can be the same. So the thing that's gonna be different, we don't want to specify what the slot is either. All right, so take this out. So the way the conversation is going to go, the person says hi, the assistant says, hey, do you want to start a quiz? The person's like, yes. Then the form should start. Right. I feel like there's an example on the docs I can work from that'll be a little bit easier than this. Check. Rasa interrupt form. Okay, this one's from June, so this should be June of this year, so this should be fairly recent. And Karen wrote it. Karen's great. Blah 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 blah. Show me the sample code. Slots. Filling the slots. Form action. Yep yep yep. Activate and deactivate. Every time the form action. Use forms. You use. Okay, so maybe I need to deactivate the form in order to answer the question that's not on the form. You may want to deactivate the form if the user says something. Okay, yeah, I think that is what I want to do. And then situation where the form is interrupted before it's complete. Yes, which I haven't done, which I think is why we were having issues. So let's see some examples in the config, blah, 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 and featureize, DS, sleep, yep, form health form, NLU, yes, 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 out of scope. There we go. So I'm looking for a story example. So this is the happy path, which is the one that we already have represented. And then here is the unhappy path. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is if we get something that's out of scope, we'll deactivate the form and then reactivate the form. There we go. All right, I'm just going to copy and paste. So, interrupted form. There we go. And then greet, and then our utterance is actually called utter start quiz, not utter greet. And then they say yes, and then we're going to start our form. And we're going to have our indentation be correct. So user says hi, the user says, do you want to start the quiz? The user says yes, we're going to start our quiz. And our quiz as well, just so we have it closer and I don't have to scroll so much. Don't worry, I will clean all this up before I retrain. So we start our elicitation form, and start it, and everything is going along great. And then the user does bot challenge. Is that what it's called? It is that, but I think I was gonna misspell challenge. And at that point, get rid of this one. This is the one we got from the training data. And I just don't need that right now. So, the user got a bot challenge, so we should make sure that we reply, nope, nope. All right. So the user asks is there a bot, and then utter ask continue, which we don't currently have, so we're gonna need to add that. I'm gonna add that right now. Utter ask continue. Do you want to resume the quiz? All right. Save that. Back to our stories. And then if they affirm, I think I'm pretty sure action deactivate form is an inbuilt action. So that is if people ask if you're a bot and then they don't want to continue the form. And if they do affirm, then we're going to continue with the elicitation form all the way to the end, and then they should do the exact same thing as they did here. There we go. Okay, so after the form is completed, then we utter slot names. We tell people what they said for their answers. And I've been on top of this the whole time, sorry about that. And then we run the dialect detection action, and then we tell the user what their dialect is, and then they say thank you, and we say, yes, oh, no worries, it's fine. And then we don't need the happy path twice. All right, let's try this again and see if we fixed it. So we save this, and let's kill our server, Control C, and both of them. And this one's like, there were some problems. We couldn't unpickle your model file. Yeah, I know you couldn't unpickle my model file. So Rasa train. So because we've added new stories, the dialogue policies are going to be updated. So it's going to take just a second, and then we can try just a quick Rasa shell and see how it works. Buddy. You didn't like something. Enrique says, why is the slot rubbernecking in the greet intent? Yeah, I don't know. I think I failed to correct something in the interactive learning. SKDK says, I haven't had a problem with form interrupting. I want people to be able to interrupt the form, right? I want to have that available. No valid domain file. All right. So something. What are our intents? I do have an intent. Thank you. Hold up. Am I on the right dialect quiz bot? Dialect quiz bot. Yeah, no, I'm in the right place, and I didn't get an argument about unknown intent. Unknown intent. NLU went correctly, but the domain failed using empty domain. The provided YAML file is incorrect. Okay, so I've done something bad to the domain file. Is that correct? Here, yeah. All right. So it's almost certainly in this utterance that I added. Ah, that'll do it. All right, let's try one more time. So I just had an extra space, and as a result, my file was not parsable. Faisa says, like, the action space. Yep. All right. Oh, and we don't have an utter goodbye. I think it's called utter no worries. Right. There we go. Yep. All right. Will no worries work in that example? Let's see. I don't think it actually will. I'm gonna add. Bye. There we go. I think it makes sense to have a. I think it does make sense to have a by intent actually. What was it? Goodbye? Yes. All right. Once more into the beach. Did I save it? Sure didn't. There we go. All right. And now let's just try Rasa's shell real quick. Because I gotta get going. Blah, blah, blah. It's starting. Hi. And let's try filling in one slot and then interrupting and see how that goes. Yes, I'd love to start a quiz. Guess I know I'm live streaming. Up it up. I don't have my action server running. Step 1, run your action server. So the action server is necessary in order to actually do the dang quiz. So let's restart real quick. Let's restart with our slash going the right way and spelled correctly. There we go. Okay, so let's start our conversation over again. I say hi. Love to take a quiz now that I have my action server running, so I can actually do my form. Are you a bot? Yeah, looks good. Do you want to continue? Yes, please. Can I continue my quiz? And now I should be asked. All right, and let's restart again real quick and just see if we can get the form to stop. Can I slash backwards again? Nope, okay. Okay, so we need to tweak the form resuming a little bit, but then it should work. Okay, so what's happening is that it's waiting for the input for the form for the next question. What if I say no? Yeah, okay, so if I say no, it stops the form. It's just not asking the last question again, which is I think what I want it to do. I think I want it to re-ask the last question after I interrupt it. So we will do that next time. I've got an error. Let me check this really quick. Yeah. Okay. My domain. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna call it there for today. We've made a lot of progress, so we can interrupt the form, and we can resume the form when we ask for different intents, and we actually should add a test for that as well. We can do that on Friday. And I think the big thing that we need to work on is once we resume the form, I want to re-ask the last question because I think that will be more helpful for folks. So yeah, we'll do that on Friday. Tomorrow we have live coding. I did post the paper for this. It is in the community tab somewhere. And the paper is like dialogue is data flow, something like that. It's out of Microsoft Research. Sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, and we will start that tomorrow, same time. Otherwise, live coding will be on Friday, same time, and we're going to continue just like, you know, zhuzhing this interaction to make sure that it works a little bit better. Yeah, and that's what we will work on then. So I hope you found this helpful, entertaining, informative, nice background noise, and I'll see you tomorrow for paper reading.